Well, our monitors take us to 10 Downing Street in London, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met one-on-one with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer today. There was a handshake, there was a hug, there was a photo opportunity. This is, of course, ahead of this virtual meeting, or after the virtual meeting that President Donald Trump had with these two and other European leaders, and ahead of the meeting that is going to happen tomorrow in Alaska between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. The leader of Ukraine says that Mr. Putin is just bluffing Mr. Trump. This also comes as leaders around the country brace for that high-stakes one-on-one meeting between Trump and Putin that is set to go down in Anchorage, Alaska. So a lot to talk about here. Let's bring in somebody we're honored to have, a member of the Ukrainian parliament, Inna Sovsun. She joins us live from Kyiv, where the consequences are high right now. I want to talk about this. You recently posted on X this. Let's show our viewers. As much as I don't like gambling, if we do not hold talks, or if talks take place without Ukraine at the table, then we'll surely have a losing hand, and millions of people, you say, will pay the price. So let's talk about the people that you reference. How does Ukraine not having a seat at the table affect everyday people like those you represent?
Well, of course, everybody is very much concerned about negotiations taking place without Ukraine. We are hearing some ideas about, for instance, the land swap. And the land swap is not just swapping the territory. It's also about people living in those territories. Putin is now saying that, one of the suggestions would be that Ukraine should give up the rest of Donetsk region. Well, the rest of Donetsk region is 33% of that region. That's the territory that's bigger than the size of the state of Delaware for those in the U.S. That's the territory that still has the cities. The city of Kramatorsk, which has about 80,000 people living there, the city of Sloviansk, which used to have 100,000 people living there, much less right now. So it's thousands of people who are living on those territories, whose fate is going to be decided without people whom they choose to represent themselves as presidents, as president, as a member of parliament, and so on and so forth. So we are afraid that this conversation will become very technical, and then people whose fate is being decided will be forgotten there. So that's of course our big fear.
Well, we know Ukrainians have lived under a state of fear and some would say weariness of this war. Do you get a sense from the people in Ukraine that if it comes down to land swapping, even though Mr. Zelenskyy has said that just rewards Russia for what they've done, do you get a sense, though, that the everyday people who are out buying their fruits and vegetables, their bread and their butter, and taking care of their families might just be willing to say, okay, take some of this land to get this thing over with?
Well, of course, the reality is that people are extremely tired. People are extremely exhausted from living under this fear. As of right now, as we speak right now, literally half of Ukraine is under air raid alert. And air raid alert was lifted literally 5 minutes ago in Kyiv itself. That's unfortunately our daily reality. There are roughly 1 million people serving in the armed forces, including my partner, who has started serving at the very beginning of the invasion. And of course, there is nothing more that I want than him to come back home safe, and then for us to resume our life as much as possible as it used to be prior to 2022. But the problem is that we are not sure if that can be achieved by simply swapping the land. Furthermore, the very idea of swapping, frankly speaking, has never been really polled in Ukraine. So we don't have an understanding of how much people can support this idea. But the idea that was being suggested and that was being discussed, and we can get some polling about that, is the idea of freezing the line of conflict. And the reality is, of course, that more and more people are willing to accept the freezing of the line of the conflict, of the front line, on those lines where the fighting is currently taking place right now. The idea of swapping the land is so unexpected and then so unacceptable in the 21st century that it has never been seriously discussed in Ukraine. There are lots of emotional reactions right now, but if you ask me about some sociological polling or something, that hasn't been done, because this has never been discussed, just voluntarily giving up part of our territory.
Well, I was standing right here not many weeks ago when President Trump had that very contentious, and that's kind of an understatement, right? That contentious meeting with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and he said the words, "You don't hold the cards." Do you think since that contentious meeting happened, that the fact that you're starting to see European leaders start to align and coalesce around Mr. Zelenskyy, around Ukraine, do you think that gives Ukraine some more cards and some more leverage that will be present in this meeting between Putin and Trump?
Well, do we want to have more cards? That's for sure. But one cannot say that we don't have any cards at all. If we didn't have any cards at all, Putin would have taken over the city of Kiev in 2022, but he couldn't do that. Even his advancement in Donbas region, the territory which he took over, bigger part of that in 2014, he couldn't take it over after 3.5 years of a full-scale invasion. So Ukraine is not as strong as we want it to be, but it's not as weak as President Trump presented it to be in that unfortunate meeting in the Oval Office. Ukrainian army is now the strongest army in Europe. And I think that is one of the things that European leaders are getting to understand right now. There is no stronger army in the European continent than Ukrainian army. Ukrainian armies is seeing lots of innovations, which many countries are just catching up to. For instance, drones, robots, and so on and so forth. Again, those are the things that Ukrainian army has, and we cannot simply say that we have no cards to play. Do we want to have more? Of course. Air defense is most critical. The ability to fight in the air and lack of that ability from the Ukrainian side is probably our biggest problem. And frankly speaking, President Trump could help end this war in a different manner by helping Ukraine achieve that air superiority. He chose to go the different way, different path. But again, it doesn't mean Ukraine has no cards to play. If we didn't have any cards to play, we would have lost this war a long time ago.
Well, and of course, the trust deficit between Russia and Ukraine, you could drive several trucks through. Tomorrow's meeting will be fascinating. It's been my honor to talk to you today on CBS News 24/7. We know you have the pulse on the people. Interviews like this are so important. We appreciate you so very, very much. Okay, so let's talk about this. On Friday, CBS News will have that live coverage all day from Alaska of President Trump's summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Plus, our very own John Dickerson will anchor the evening news from Anchorage, right there, very close to where these consequential moments in history are being made. Also next to Margaret Brennan as well.